A small sect called the Satanic Temple has been angering many on the religious far right, mainly because they believe that religious freedoms granted to Christians should also apply to Satanists too. According to the co-founder Lucien Greaves, they want to stop the Christian point of view from becoming the preferred point of view in this country. And they feel that's what's actually happening. They call that the worst case scenario. This was in an interview that he did, and I read this awesome article, and I found this very interesting. Now, there's a lot of things that they've been doing. Yep. And whether or not they're an actual religion or they're just trolls is a discussion that we're going to get into. First off, I want to give you guys, I'm sure you guys have heard this story. I mean, we reported on The Lip. In Oklahoma, they decided to put up and erect a 10 Commandments made out of granite. It was like this shrine to the 10 Commandments, right? It was a monument, and it was on state grounds. So the Satanic Temple saw that and said, wait, well, if they can, build, something that's, based off Christian foundations, why can't we do the same thing? Doesn't matter if it's Christian or Satan. Yeah, doesn't matter. So they actually did this crowdfunding project. They raised almost $30,000 and had this beauty made. They actually went up in Detroit for quite some time. And so that's just one quick little example. There's been smaller cases where there was this Christian coach, a football coach, who was coaching little kids, and he would lead these Christian prayers before the game at an elementary school, and they didn't think that was cool either, so they showed up and they were like demanding that they can do their satanic prayers as well. So the question to you, is the Satanic Temple a real religion, or are they trolls?
I think they're big time trolls, but I think that what they're doing is very important because they're trying to show something that is real, that Christian values are, in this secular country, the preferred point of view.
It's true.
It's in the bills, in God we trust. But again, one of the things that they've done in the past that really shows their commitment to social equality is when they start giving out Satanist coloring books, because they figure out that if the Christians were able, there was this Christian organization that was able to give out for free at the schools, these public schools, these Christian coloring books. So they came forward, they went and submit by all the regular channels their own Satanist coloring book, and they thought that the school were like, oh, this probably is teaching some weird shit and it's gonna fail. But in reality, they showed that all the book was full of positive social values, so they didn't have any grounds to deny their distribution of these materials. And instead of allowing diversity, they decided to close the forum altogether and stop giving out any type of literature to the kids, which in itself is a victory. Just to create that questioning of authorities of what they're doing and the programs that they're putting forward. If they are not going to be able to offer that to everyone, regardless of their religion, that is the beauty of this country, then they need to close it down, and that's what they did.
Exactly. They're saying if you don't accept Satan, then you are discriminating. Yeah. And then you're taking away our freedom of religion, which is so funny. So in a way, I guess you could say they are a advocacy group which uses religious privilege to challenge religious privilege.
Yeah.
But their co-founder, Lucien Greaves, says it's much more complicated than that. And he says, quote, in that interview, "We're not trying to destroy religious privilege and exemption. We are coming at it in a way that we can find a legitimate plateau on which religious privilege can work in a pluralistic society. During our Oklahoma campaign to place our statue of Baphomet alongside the 10 Commandments, people kept asking what we were looking for. What was our preferred outcome? For the 10 Commandments to come down or for ours to go up? But either one of those outcomes was okay with us. What we were fighting against was that one perspective enjoyed the power of state government. We were just fighting against the worst case scenario, that the Christian point of view had a preferred place in the government institution," like I said. So, they're using religious freedom to fight, the lack of religious freedom that they think is going on. There is an argument that maybe some religious people will say, well, you guys aren't really believing in a God. You're not really attributing anything that's happening here on earth to any supernatural beings. But that in itself then is bogus, because then you're kind of discriminating against atheists too, right? So just because they're not ascribing to some God that lives in the heavens doesn't mean, that they shouldn't be able to do what they want.
And believe what they want. If they want to believe in something that is not a mystical God, they are in the right to do so. We have Pastafarians.
Yes.
Why don't we allow them to do their thing, right? If these guys are able to take their driver license photo with a strainer in their heads,
why not?
Why not?
Well, apparently they can.
They can now, but that's the thing. This is one of the beauty of this country, that you are allowed to believe and proselytize for whatever is freedom of speech and freedom of religion, but it has to go in any way. It can't be only in the benefit of Christians or in the detriment of Muslims. It has to be equal, and I think what they're doing is trying to do a social point more than a religious battle.
Oh, without a doubt. And one thing we haven't pointed out, though, is that they don't believe in, evil or doing anything like that. They don't preach any of the, that you should, follow Satan in a bad way.
Demonic properties of the devil.
They're not saying that. And those coloring books that you talked about, there was absolutely nothing immoral about that, because they know what they're doing. They're giving it to little kids. And like Jose mentioned, look, let's be honest. They're not out here worshiping the devil because they're evil, terrible people. I think at the bottom of everything, when we really get to the heart of it, they're simply trolls who simply wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for that far right that believes that this should be a Christian nation only.